Sarah.
Hi, how's it going?
How's it going? We were just talking. It's this is one of the reasons I love doing this podcast is because I don't know you. I mean, IRL as the kids would say, but uh, I can't believe I just said that. Um, but it's so cool to meet. This is the reason I want to start doing it because it's to meet other cool guitar players and make new friends and kind of ask them about their journey and their approach and their careers and what motivates them and stuff like that. So there's so many interesting things to get in with you that we get into eventually. But like, what made you want to start playing guitar?
Well, my parents are both musicians, and
Oh,
yeah, I mean, it was, and my mom, she plays guitar, and she was the guitar teacher in the town, sort of.
oh,
So
cool.
everyone took guitar lessons from my mom. And I was pretty anti music because I just wanted to be different from my parents. But ultimately, then I just picked up the guitar because I was bored or something, and just like just kept learning that
Yeah,
day, and just kept learning more and more. And my mom was right there. She was just showing me more things, um and then eventually started learning from other people and kept
right.
going. Yeah.
Oh, you're so lucky you had somebody in the house that was able to show you in real
Yeah.
time. You know what I mean? Instead of, I mean, it's such a benefit now that there's YouTube and that there's somebody like, I want to know how to play this AC/DC song, and you could just type it in, and some guy's going to show you how to play that. Whereas before, you just had to use your ears, and hopefully you were sort of naturally talented and you could pick that up, or you were screwed. Um, so that's so fortunate. Did you? When did you decide you kind of wanted to do it with your life, like for your life?
Yeah. I can't remember. I think it wasn't a question whether or not, like, playing music is a career. Like, my parents were like, yeah, if you are good, then rock on, you should do it. Like,
Right.
they had a plan. They were like, you should do it well. Like, if you're
Right.
they'd be pretty
Right.
honest with me if I sounded like shit or something.
Yeah. Don't
But
fuck it
in,
up.
like, yeah, they were like, you better sound great. And but I think I kind of knew that I was headed down the path when I was started high school, because I started uh, learning from more serious mentors, and they were
Right.
kind of like leading me into some sort of path like that. So
Right. That's so important. The
yeah.
the the people that sort of you know are maybe a little older
Hmm.
and know their way around. And I feel like just by hanging out with those folks, just through osmosis, you get better. You know,
Totally. Yeah.
if it's a runner or a skater or whatever it might be, you're sort of now not competing with them, but you're trying to do it at their level. So inevitably, you're gonna get better in a
Totally.
quicker amount of time. It's gonna expedite that process for sure.
Hmm.
Um, what was your early gear? What was like your first guitar and stuff?
I mean, I would just play on my mom's electric guitar. She actually have it right here. I brought it back and got it all fixed up
Oh,
so I
that's
could
so
play it
cool.
again. Now I've been playing it for shows. It's just like a Mexican Strat, and was
Great.
learning on that. And then, you know, we grew up in the Hudson Valley, so there was a lot of folk music, and she did a lot of folk music. So it was a lot of acoustic guitars, and that's why I started playing the Django Reinhardt stuff, because it's really simple. It's like people just playing these acoustic guitars, and I thought that was really cool, like the simplicity of all that. I
Sure.
wasn't super into gear when I was younger. I like
Sure.
missed the boat on that. I
Right.
didn't.
Right.
My dad obviously was obsessed with it, but I was really just loved the like purity of the acoustic guitar, and what you can get out of that, and you can just sit down and just play tunes.
Right.
So that was the beginning for me. My dad, he got when I started playing gypsy music, he um, got me this Jeton guitar, like
Yeah.
a company, and like the John Jorgensen like
Sure.
model.
Sure.
Honestly, that guitar rocked. It was a really sweet, awesome instrument, and I just started playing on that for a while.
Well, Well, so you mentioned it briefly, but I want to stop you there and give you credit for how amazing it is that you were a kid, I would imagine, and you got sort of obsessed with Django Reinhardt. And for those that don't know, Django Reinhardt was a guitar player that sort of perfected the art of gypsy jazz and was French.
Hmm.
Am I wrong? Okay, and
Belgian, yeah.
Belgian, but
Spoke
Belgian French.
French, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's all this.
and that's what it was. And he had two working fingers on his left hand. So he did these amazing, amazing things and accomplished them all with his index and his middle finger on his left hand, his fretting hand, which is unbelievable. The chord work and the solo work and things like that. Um, and you sort of took that on as like your mission in life to learn his stuff and to do it. When did that start with you?
Well, I feel like I got into it through the way it kind of introduced a whole new wave. Um, I was I don't know how everyone feels about this, but I was watching that Woody Allen film. I know some people are pretty anti Woody Allen, but I
Sure.
was watching the Woody Allen film
I know the one.
Midnight in
Midnight in
Paris,
Paris. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and well, the theme of it, um, I saw the movie and I just loved the theme of the song, and so I learned it. And my dad was like, this is like coming from this guy, um, Django Reinhardt, and so I started getting super into it. And then my dad was like, the guy who wrote the song is actually playing at a venue nearby. Do you want to go see him?
Oh wow.
And I was like, hell yeah, I want to see it so bad. So we went, and it was so crazy. Like it's Stefan Rimbel, and he
Mm-hmm.
plays with, he was playing with like a drummer, a rhythm guitar player, and a bass player, upright bass. And it was like Django Reinhardt music, but like on steroids. Like like it's really energetic. It's like almost like a rock band, but they're playing these like intricate lines.
Right.
um and then after the show, I went up to him and was like, do you give lessons? And he said, are you serious? And are you serious about learning it? And I said, yeah. And then I learned from him until I was like 19, and then I played in his band for a little bit.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Hmm.
And traditionally, they were I'm probably mispronouncing, but the Macaferri, was that the guitar company?
Yeah, that's one of them. McAfee, Selmer, is a big
Selmers, yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, those
And
ones.
they had like the sort of sideways oval sound hole.
Yeah,
I remember that,
yeah,
and almost like an Art Deco looking guitar in a weird way.
yeah. It's
Uh,
very like they have ones that have like a really big kind of hole that spans across the guitar, and ones that has these really small ones, and
right.
they're funny looking guitars for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a different it's almost its own genre. It's almost its own genre, its own thing. It lives in a corner all by itself.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And for
yeah. Crazy.
somebody as young as you to sort of take that on, I think is highly commendable because, I was just talking about this with some friends about how younger people are into like early thrash metal, like the stuff I was into in the 80s. And definitely now with Stranger Things and Metallica and stuff like that, that one
Totally.
character, and people are going back. But you see kids that are like, 18 or 19 and they have like an Exodus back patch or something that just blows your mind. So I felt the same way. But
Yeah.
beyond that, so then you started touring with bands, sort of Guitar for Hire, things like that. So who are some of the bands, and what was the first band you actually went out and toured with?
Yeah. So, um, I started just getting into it because when I moved here, I moved right after I graduated high school. So I was just starting, I just wanted to play swing music and gypsy music. And
Yeah.
I was doing that here and it was really fun. But at the same time, that's not also what I was listening to. I was listening to a lot of, indie music. So I started playing for this artist, Samia. And I, we just started playing way back, and then now she grew immensely. Like she's really killing it right now. And I started playing with her, and that just sort of led me in that world. So then we
Right.
started touring. We toured with bands like Cold War Kids and Hippocampus, and yeah, just sort of got into it. And then my name was just sort of passed around when people needed someone, and I started playing for this artist Claude, and when the next artist that I was on tour with Cold War Kids was Overcoats. And then now I play mainly with this artist Gus Dapperton. So I
Oh,
tour mainly with him.
and that keeps you busy.
Keeps me pretty busy, yeah, for sure.
So what do you have coming up next?
So we are leaving next month for a month-long tour in Europe, and then a couple weeks in Australia.
Oh, I
Yeah.
just got back from Europe. I was there for 5 weeks, and it
Oh,
was
sweet.
amazing to be back. I
Yeah.
mean, it was something, I did every year, twice, 2, 3 times, and then boom,
I know.
and I just realized how much I missed it. It's crazy.
Totally.
But anyway, well, that's great. So what was your we can get into your gear just a bit. So what are you using primarily now?
Well, I'm still pretty, because I'm from I just felt like I'm like I got into the gear later in my life, because before that I was just working with acoustic guitar.
Sure.
and finding ways to I guess amplify acoustic guitar in the best sounding way, and that was
Sure.
like my main gear, finding really good contact mics and stuff like that. But now my gear is, I really like to use a Nash Telecaster. Do you know that company? You know Nash?
I know them very, very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Britton Nash is Britton. Do you know Britton?
I don't, but
Britton
would love
he's the guy. I have my best guitars. I think I can say my best guitars. This is the Nash Strat right here, actually.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's green.
Cool.
See?
Sweet.
Yeah. I have 2 Nash Telecasters. I have that Strat and I have a Jazzmaster. I love them so much. And 2 of my main stage Les Pauls, Britton has had his hands on that. He has relicked it and shaved the neck, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm so psyched on their stuff.
Amazing.
Because it reminds me of almost like the way that mine is. I feel like it kind of reminds me of gypsy guitar in some way. It's really also responsive to the way I play and my accents. Right. Because I feel like I learned a different technique when I was learning the Django Reinhardt stuff. Like when you switch strings, you have to hit it with a downstroke, right. And it's very and your wrist is very loose and kind of weighted, and so I kind of sometimes do that, and I just love those guitars. I've been playing gigs, like Django Reinhardt gigs, on the Nash Telly. Oh, wow. And it's been amazing. It sounds really cool.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can't say enough about those guitars. I absolutely love them. Yeah. And I got introduced to them by Brian Baker, and I played one. I was just like, I gotta have one of these. And I got a straight up just Telecaster from Britain, and it's pound for pound the best, one of the, if not then one of the best guitars I own. But so amplification, what are you using for amps?
So then, what I really love and to do when it's all my own gear is I use my dad gave it to me. It's this vintage from the 70s Fender Champ, real right. Little guy, but that shit sounds amazing. Like, what I really look for is I really like the way it breaks up if I'm using like the telly into it. It gives me this sort of electric Django sound, kind right. of like in his later days when he started playing electric. It's like gives you that like kind of, it sounds like a horn right. section, when you're playing right. chords. And then I also use it to play for more indie artists too, and it gives me like a beautiful kind of warm sound, like kind of like Bill Frisell or something like that. So I roll with that.
That's a great reference, Bill Frisell. Plus, it's also easy to get around. You know what I mean? It's
so amazing. I just take it right on the train. It's awesome.
so easy to lug around. It's not a Marshall half stack or whatever.
No.
You know, unfortunately, the type of music I chose to play, it was either a Marshall half stack or nothing, and it was just like, Jesus Christ, what am I gonna do? You know?
I know. I always find myself working with like, well, can I take this on the train? Can I, you know, not
Right.
walk it down the street a couple blocks, because we're just lugging it all around the city if we're playing gigs. But it's also easier to take on the road too. I put it in a little Pelican case, so it's
Oh, that's
like
great.
rolls. It's great, and yeah. And then if you like for my pedals and stuff,
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
if it's if it's more like indie and it's softer and folk stuff, I really love using the Strymon Flint. Do you know
Oh
that one?
yeah. Oh, I
I
know that
really
one.
use that the Flint a lot. I think it gives you immediate swag. I think it just sounds
Yeah.
like you just sound uh like you have a better touch on the guitar. I just think
Right.
it rocks. Yeah.
Right. I
So I
mean,
use it.
pedals. You know, it's funny because I also have a less is more approach where I try to do guitar, pedal board, amps. But I used to not do pedals at all, and then I started
Well,
adding them slowly, and I wanted to add a very basic pedal board, which I still have.
mhm.
Um, in an age of where technology is just getting insane, and and it's it's making it easier for all of us, but for me, I still have such a caveman approach, such a luddite approach to everything. I just want to do the things that I know. You know, I want simple pedals. I wanted to do simple things. The
Me
age
too.
of profilers like Kempers and fractals and things like that.
Mhm.
It's just I can't argue with the technology because apparently, if you're using ears every night, things like that,
Really?
sounds brilliant. There,
Yeah.
I've got people I know and trust and respect and I look up to that are using stuff like that. And I still being able to take like a champ and a guitar and play a gig, I still at my core, I am so much more impressed with that, you know.
Yeah, I also I just love that. I love a real simple setup, and I think it's really admirable. I mean, at the same time though, I'm getting into new territory when I play with Gus. This is like more indie pop stuff, so I find myself also making my guitar sound not like a guitar, which is also
Right.
kind of cool. Like I think it's a fun challenge. I've been playing actually a lot more with a lot more artists and trying to really fuck up the sound, you know.
Right.
And it's like, well, if I'm not going to be playing like this way, I might as well just play this way and really get crazy with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that and I actually use a lot of Gus's gear so for that gig, and so it gives me chances to just check out new things. I use like Fender Deluxe Reverb amp, and just like filters and chorus pedals, and
Yeah.
yeah, I
Just go
still, and
lush.
octave pedals, like it's all very yeah, a lot, because also a lot of I joined his band later when he had more guitar-esque songs, but
Right.
before that he was very synth poppy, so I had to kind of, we're still going to play some old songs, and I kind of had to find my way in that group
Sure.
playing that kind of stuff, you know.
It's interesting going into somebody's thing that's already established and then trying to find your own voice. I mean, yes,
Totally.
you want to play the music faithfully, but you also want to find yourself and like, what am I bringing to this? And that brings me to an interesting question. You know, is that something you want to do? Is sort of, do you feel like you're most fulfilled doing hired gun stuff and playing with a bunch of different folks, or do you think you'd be just as fulfilled maybe playing your own stuff or playing with this guy for the rest of your career? Like, what do you see? How do you see it going?
I mean, I think about this all the time, and I feel so fulfilled when I kind of have a lot of just control over my sound, and when I do go back to my basic kind of instrumentation, like I just guitar, amp, very simple, like there's just certain, I feel like there are certain artists that I feel like are playing and the songs and maybe my playing complements each other super well,
Sure.
and it feels like it it is fulfilling to be in a band and be known as maybe the guitar player for that band, or like
Right.
really have it would be great to play for, you know, a big artist, but have this voice on stage through your instrument where, you know, people recognize the sound of
Right.
your style. And then also I have my own project too, so yeah, I also love to play my
And
stuff.
is that just under your own name, or is it
It's actually under this name. It's called Hank.
Hank? Okay.
Yeah, Hank.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually released the first single off the project a couple weeks ago, so you
Oh,
can stream it. Yeah.
congratulations. So
Thank you,
check out
Hank.
Hank. And you know, I think there's no way for you not to be. Well, let me back up. I think the true hallmark of a musician is when you can sort of hear that person with your eyes closed and go, "Oh, that's such and such."
Mm-hmm.
You know their approach, you know their tone, their
Totally.
style, just the way they play. And I've always thought that that was true success as a musician, you know, and not necessarily if they can sweep an arpeggio or if they're shredders or whatever it might be. It's like they could fret a bar chord and you go, oh, that's, you know, like Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath. You can tell it's
Totally.
Tony Iommi,
Yeah.
Angus Young, and whoever it might be. And I think you bringing that Django Reinhardt influence to indie rock and to rock and roll and to, you know, synth pop and stuff like that, that definitely gives you that sort of leg up. And I think it's interesting talking to you that you do bring that influence over into you because it's, you know, it's your style. It's what you, it's, you learn this like third gear that we didn't learn, you know, that other guitar players didn't learn, and you're using it. And that's so interesting. I think that's amazing. When you were training and learning all of that stuff, did it go from a theory approach or did it go from more of a like, this is his style and this is what he does? Or did they teach you like, you know, the building blocks behind it and everything else?
Yeah. I mean, learning, my dad's a jazz pianist, and he would always try to teach me theory, and I'd be like, I don't like this traditional way at all. I can't stand it.
Right.
I think it's really backwards, and I know some people really like it, but I just could not vibe with it at all. And then that's why I think I really enjoyed when I was learning from Stefan, because he just was like, I'm going to show you what I do, and it's very guitaristic. It's all based in shapes. And then we would transcribe a lot of Django Reinhardt solos. So you just like get things in your ear. And yeah, I'm not super like I'm not a theory head, but I found the way that works for me on the guitar, and it gets me there. Like I still
It
feel
gets you
like
there.
I can express myself and also play gigs. I play tons of gigs and tunes, and I think it actually gives me a lot of freedom, I think, because I'm not sort of thinking in terms of
Right.
theory all the time.
I think that's a great answer. Hey, 1 second. My person's at the door. I'm going to make
You
a
got it.
2320. I will be right back.
Okay. All good.
It's so unprofessional. I'm so sorry.
It's
Uh,
truly fine.
okay. Boom. So wait, there's an edit at 2320. I'm just going to take up where.
Yeah.
Well, I think because I watched your video of you. The reason I asked that is because I watched your video of you doing these Django Reinhardt songs and completely blown away. And I took jazz guitar lessons. I went to Berkeley. I did things, and theory still for me, it's like school. So it goes in one ear and out the other. Now, if hard pressed, I feel like I could speak the language and I could do those things. But when I watched you do that, I was like, oh, this is all theory. This is all connected with all this. And so to hear that it's actually based in patterns and that's how you got your head around it. And I would imagine with Django Reinhardt as well, since he was such an innovator, he probably has his, when you dive into his playing, I would imagine he has his bag of tricks, so to speak, where you're like, oh, this is the Django thing. I know this thing. I know this thing from
Mhm.
these other songs. And then you kind of link those together. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Like you nailed it. I mean, you have to think about it too. Django Reinhardt couldn't read or write. You know what I mean? So I just
Wow.
don't think that he couldn't even like sign his name. Like, how do you think he's like? I mean, obviously, I just don't. He didn't have also access to like very in depth theory
Right.
or conservatory, and so he learned from just listening to um, Louis Armstrong or like Ravel and
Yeah.
Debussy, and it's very classical the way he plays, and he just listened, like he just
It's unbelievable.
yeah,
It's
just
just,
was a savant, yeah.
yeah. And I mean, to fret those kinds of chords with two fingers.
Yeah. Also,
How,
he's so modern too. Like the way when you listen to some of his stuff, it's like he was kind of out there
yeah.
on some things, and
It's
it's just cool.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just awesome. That's what he just thinks is cool, and he hears it, and
Hmm.
instead of like this is the way, like you gotta do this over that. Like there are no rules. You have no rules if you don't
Yeah.
if you don't want to learn them. You know.
Well, I think all the great innovators are like that. I mean, Jimi Hendrix,
Hmm.
all the guys that just blew minds was like, where is this guy coming from? And it's just somebody that that had their own antenna. They
Hmm.
were just born that way. They were just like, well, I hear it this way and I see it this way and I'm going to do it this way. When you have, especially nowadays, you have so many people telling you this is how things should be. You have to play a Les Paul and a Marshall or whatever it might be. And you
Hmm.
have to play lead guitar this way. And for somebody to go, no, fuck all that. I'm going to
Yeah.
do it my way because I hear it and I see it this way.
Yeah.
And those are the people that innovate and are lauded and talked about for years to come. And I think you fall into that category. I feel like you're bringing such an interesting, different thing. Who the fuck goes as far back as Django Reinhardt? And that is a young person. I don't mean to lay into that because I don't mean to discredit you by saying that, but I think it's astounding to me that you are doing what you're doing and that this was the lane you found. It's astounding.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think when I started playing more popular music, like more indie music, I was actually a little not not like not embarrassed or anything like that, but I just felt like I wanted to play the way that other people were playing it.
Right.
Like I was like I can't shred like metal lines because I never learned how to play metal, or like
Right.
I can't play like that. And I feel like I have this like kind of quirky kind of playing, and at first I was a little like I want to get away from the Django stuff, like I'm trying to like play more like a guitar stuff, and now I've
Right.
actually learned to just lay into it and have this uh style that actually can cross over between the two. Like if I want to play a Django gig, like it still sounds a little modern, like
Right.
indie vibes. And then if I want to play an indie gig, like yeah, maybe I'll try to throw some things in that are inspired by Django and stuff like that.
Right.
And it's fun. And I think I have to owe it to a lot of other guitar players who do cross over in that, between different styles, but with the Django influence. And there's just some real inspiring players out there that help me kind of
Right.
push my way.
I think if anything, it's what makes you you and what makes you discernible, and probably is what in the future and what currently gets you gigs because
Yeah.
you have this different approach from having such a, a different, unique background. You know, I
Mhm.
know who Django Reinhardt is because I'm a fucking like music guitar dork that's been doing this my whole life. But not saying you're a dork. I'm just saying I
It's true.
studied. Not everybody does, you know. And I when I first noticed that about you, it was blew my mind. So I think that's definitely what is making you you, and I wouldn't shy away from it at all if I were you. I'd run toward it, you know.
Yeah.
So who are your favorite rock people? Like if you had to pick rock guitar players, because we know Django Reinhardt's definitely one of your top influences, if not your top influence.
Totally. I feel like, I mean, rock, like, I feel like honestly, a lot of my favorite guitar players or musicians come from just really awesome songwriters that I think are uh, sweet musicians. Um, I think that growing up, like, yeah, I was also super into Jimi Hendrix, learned all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I honestly just really think songwriters today have just cool styles. Like, I really like um, this guy, this songwriter Alex G. I think he's awesome, and I think
Okay.
he plays guitar, and he's played guitar on like Frank Ocean's stuff, and
Oh.
but he has a very he has like a just a really cool style. He has cool chords, cool voicings. Um, that's someone that I just listen to their
Hmm.
stuff. I'm trying to think of more guitar players.
I think it's awesome that you're searching for this answer, though. I mean, honestly,
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's great. I think that's
yeah,
what gives you a different approach, and I think that's what gives you um, a unique voice.
yeah,
Because I'm so used to somebody going, "Oh," and list out 10, you know, and
yeah.
usually like shredder guys or whatever that you know. And I love the fact that you're choosing songwriters,
Mhm.
and that you're having a hard time thinking of your favorite rock guitar player.
Yeah, because it's also like I. It's not that I don't. I love the sound of the guitar, but I think that um, I just didn't grow up like listening that much to like Eric Clapton or
Sure.
Stevie Ray Vaughan or something like that. I just didn't.
Well, you grew up listening to Django Reinhardt, so I think you kind of trumped us all.
It's just that I wish I was like, oh, and we could just go on about it, but I I didn't really come into it that way, so that's how
Well,
it goes.
you're a unicorn, and I think it's I mean, seriously, and I mean that in the best possible way. I think that's why you are having a career and you're making a living as a musician because you're bringing something different to it, which is so hard nowadays. It's so hard to bring something interesting to the conversation, and that's why I wanted to do this podcast. I wanted to talk to guitar players that are bringing something different to this and trying and maybe not getting lauded for that and respected enough or as much press for their approach, but they're doing something amazing in their own little corner of the world, and that's exactly what you're doing. And do you have real quick, so I ask a lot of people this, do you have one that got away? Do you have a guitar, an amp, or a piece of gear that you lost or got stolen or you had to sell? Do you have anything like that?
Um, actually I had so I'm pretty tight with all my gear. I try not to like keep it out of sight, but this one time I did ask one of my roommates after a gig to bring um my amp home in an Uber, and I think we were all just out, having a good time, and
Sure.
everyone was maybe a little tipsy, and she just left it. She's like, it was left in the Uber. I
Oh,
don't want to say it was anyone's fault, but in the back, I shouldn't have given her the amp to just take home. I should have just taken it home. But I lost the amp, but it was that's a replaceable thing. But what really was hard for me that I also lost was this um vintage electric pickup. I don't know if they're vintage. Yeah, they are. This vintage like kind of electric pickup that you put on your acoustic guitars that Django would use like in the more electric time of it. It's like an electric pickup. It's got this kind of like weirder electric sound.
Sure.
But
So it just fits in the sound hole kind of a thing.
yeah, and it is like truly the most basic pickup of all time. Because it's like still made the same way that they did in like the 40s or 50s, but to find one that actually amplifies the guitar evenly and well and like with nothing fucked up is hard. So I thought I had a really great one. I loved mine, and then it was lost, and then I had to get another one, and it just wasn't the same. Like I don't even use it because I just think it doesn't. Yeah, I know. It's just
what was the amp?
The amp is the AER, like acoustic amps. You know those kinds of amps.
Gotcha. Yeah,
more like jazz people use them. Which that was also a bummer because I think those are pretty pricey.
Yeah, well, that sucks.
That's how it goes, you know.
I'm sorry. Well, I won't keep you. I won't keep you much longer. Again, like I said, in my opinion, I feel like you're a unicorn. You are bringing Django Reinhardt to a new generation, which is no small feat. That's huge.
Oh, I
That's
appreciate
amazing.
that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's something to behold, and it's something to be very proud of because you do it very, very, very well. And everybody, check out Sara L'Abriola, and thank you so much for doing this with me today.
Yeah, of course. I was so psyched. So, yeah.
Okay, well, we will. We'll talk to you soon, and I'll see you out there. If you're, hopefully, we'll crisscross on tour. If not, are you playing a regular gig in New York City? Do you do something?
If I'm in town, I'm about to leave for about a couple months. But when I am in town, I play in some really quirky places in the East Village. This one spot called Anyway Cafe. It's like a very local, fun spot. I'll play there with I play at this spot called Barbez. It's in Park Slope. Again with my trio. I probably will update that on my website when I think I have to.
And what's your website?
It should be saralabbriola.com, but I have to. I will keep you updated as to if that site is still active.
Okay. And is this project? Is this the Hank project, the 3-piece?
So actually, no. That is under my name's. The trio is under Sara L'Abriola, like jazz stuff. Then my actual songwriting project is called Hank, and you can find it on Spotify, Apple Music. I put out a song. It's called All For You, in parentheses, baby. And the rest of the EP comes out over the next couple of months. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sara.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.